It's Eugen Lee, and you're listening to Money Crashers Podcast. I'm here to make your financial life better by helping you make wiser choices about managing, saving, investing, and spending money. With me today is none other than the best decision I've ever made, my husband, Gary. Gary was born and raised in New York, is an overtly proud Hoosier from Indiana University's Kelley School of Business, and is a certified public accountant. Gary, can you tell the listeners a little bit about a CPA and more of your professional journey? Just a brief summary.
Sure. Just let me start off by saying, of course, you're the best decision in my life as well. And, I've been waiting very patiently to be called on to be featured or included in your podcast journey. So thank you for having me. So a CPA is a certified public accountant, and basically what we do is CPAs can be many things, but what I'm most familiar with is ensuring that the financial statements and the numbers that are being reported by these companies to the public are accurate so that we as the public can make good financial decisions based on the numbers that are provided. So, of course, we can't just trust companies for their word. Someone needs to be able to check that what they're saying is accurate. So that's essentially what a CPA does from my point of view.
Got it. And so I know those numbers kind of have to do with, so when there's, just to make it applicable, when there's an earnings call, which happened last week across multiple companies, so you just basically audit and vouch for those numbers too, right?
So yeah, when I worked at PwC within the Big Four, I did audit and vouch for those numbers that are being spoken about at these earnings call and in their press releases. So yeah, that's exactly on point.
Okay, gotcha. And also, so Gary, I'm used to you going to the office 5 days a week, working maybe up to even 12 hours a day. What was it like transitioning from going into a beautiful office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson River to working from home during the pandemic? What was that like?
As you can see, I'm actually in the office today. It's, you can't see, but in any case, working from home was great too. I went from a beautiful office with a beautiful view to being around my beautiful family every day. And I couldn't ask for more.
So was it difficult of juggling having the children around when you were on calls, or like what was it? What was homeschooling like?
It was very difficult, but I think we all had to manage. And I think the great thing was that the people that I work with they're going through similar situations, right? So they understood if maybe our daughter or our son ran up to the camera and tried to say hello or to try to see what we were doing. So I think folks, they understand, and I think that's how we got through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone was basically on the same boat. Yeah. And so you're in the finance world, right? So I have a lot of, especially moms come up to me and ask me a lot of personal finance questions or questions about kids. When we get together, Mom's Night Out, we'll always discuss what's going on with your kid, where are you sending your kid, where are you investing, etc. So I figured it would be a really good idea to write up a podcast episode on like answering these questions. So are you ready for it?
I guess so.
Okay. So just to preface, right? Money is the number one stressor of a marriage more than anything else. And when we're discussing finance, when you're discussing finance with your spouse, there are a lot of triggers, And so I was wondering, what do you think is the number one source of tension related to money between you and I?
Between us? I think for the most part, we're really on the same page. And one of the things that's very helpful is that we have a joint account. So we're able to see and get the whole picture of what the money is coming in versus the money is going out. I feel like if we had separate accounts and I was unable to see exactly what you were bringing in and you were unable to see what I was bringing in, then we can't really get the full picture in order to better allocate our budget. So I think for the most part, we're pretty good. The the stressful part, I guess, comes when either you or I want to spend money and make a somewhat of a larger purchase. Uh,
Mm.
I mean, it doesn't happen all the time, but that's when you sh I guess that's the only thing that I would say. But then at the end of the day, I feel like um, we spend wisely and we make good decisions and we save up for some of the bigger purchases. So I think at the end of the day, we are no stress, no stress here.
I think the best way to describe it would be like we're constantly running a three-legged race, right? So with every issue, whether it's an additional kid or one of the kids has like a new problem or there's there's a hiccup somewhere, then we have to re-find our rhythm,
Yeah,
right? But then once we just talk it through, I feel like we get
right.
through it. We figure out the rhythm until the next
Yeah,
hiccup ruins it, and then we'll have to refine that
yeah,
again. Yeah. So one person asked if we have a financial planner. If not, what are the tools and programs that we use? So, Gary, do you want to answer
yeah.
that?
We do have a financial planner who primarily manages our retirement accounts, and I think they do a great job in doing so because it gives me the peace of mind where I know I'm relying on professionals to manage our retirement so that I can be focused on the day to day and not having to worry about that and letting someone deal with it gives me some comfort for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And I think just to add to that, Gary gets very stressed out about things. And so I think it gives you peace of mind to like set it and
Yeah,
forget it, right? hmm Um, I agree. I think having a financial planner it just allows me to free up that space in my head to do other things and just like rely on someone else. And I feel like having a financial planner sometimes gives you good advice. Like they give you advice that I wouldn't have otherwise figured out on my own. So I think that's really helpful. Um, the next question, Gary, is um, how have we set up our future financially? So what kind of life insurance? They want to know what kind of life insurance, will, and retirement plan that we have set up.
yeah, for life insurance, as soon as our son, our firstborn, came to this world, even before that, I went to speak to an agent to get some life insurance. And I think that's very important because you never know what could happen. Like we get insurance for our cars, like everyone has car insurance, and that's pretty much a requirement. So I think it's important to be prepared for the unknown. So we have life insurance as well. Well, I have life insurance. And then for Eugen, she doesn't have life insurance because our agent had a very good point to make. When I initially asked him, maybe I should get Eugen life insurance because if she goes away, what am I gonna do? But he suggested that we get a new car, a car that's safer, because oftentimes when you hear about accidents occurring, it does happen when you're driving. So I thought that was nice or some good feedback from him. So yeah, you don't have life insurance, but I do.
So if my life was valued, it would be zero. It would be less than our, back then we were driving a Jeep Wrangler. So he was like, get your wife a safer car because it has no side
Doors
impact
fall
airbags.
off.
It, the doors come off. There's no air conditioner in back. So it's very uncomfortable. It's tall.
The newer ones
Yeah,
might be
it's
more
cumbersome.
safe, but yeah, our older Jeep wasn't that safe, I'd say.
Um, Good to know. But okay, so the next question is, what have you done to set up your children for the future, i.e., 529 plans, custodial accounts,
Yeah, so we
etc.?
have 529 accounts for each of our kids, and I contribute to it monthly. And even if the market's down, um, I think it's important to stay the course and just invest because, like, even if the market's down and you don't put money in, that's an opportunity cost that you need to think about. Because if you're not putting money in and you just wait for the market to come down further, that might not ever happen. Who knows? No one can really tell the future. So I think it's important to set up a 529. And I know, like some of my friends, they'll say, what if my kids don't go to college? Or what if they do something different and don't need to go to college? Well, I feel like at that point, you could just pull the money out and pay the penalty. And I'm pretty sure whatever appreciation or whatever money you made over the course of 18 years or so would outweigh the penalty. So I think 529s are a great way to help the kids because you and I both graduated with college debt, and I don't think that if possible, I would love for our kids, if they go to college, to graduate with no debt, like, you know, on their shoulders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with the second half of what you said. I so this is, I mean, we didn't argue about it. My opinions of 529s were that there's better use of your money right now. And what if college isn't as important later on? But I agree with you 100%, Gary. This is better than nothing. It's still a great option. Even if you opt out of it, it's still a good option. Yes, of course, there are other things you could do with your money and you could have better returns. However, it's still better than nothing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Okay,
your
so
option would have been using that money to save for some jewelry or something.
no. Okay, if you want to go this route, okay. Gary and I, this isn't intention though, but the way we're cut from the same cloth in that we're very responsible. We're both the firstborn, Korean American, second generation. So we carry the guilt of our family, right? That's like a firstborn, I feel like that's like a firstborn burden that we're all born with. So we're very responsible, and we're there for our family and whoever needs us, right? But the way we spend money is very different. I grew up with my parents are entrepreneurs, and so they're very good at saving but using that for opportunities. So they bought they're very sharp and savvy enough to be able to buy rundown commercial real estate and to rebuild it, having no like developing experience, and basically running the being landlords and running the property, right? And with multiple residential residences. So the way so that's in my DNA. I grew up seeing that. So I like to save my money and look for opportunities, especially in real estate. So I am recalling right now 3 different instances when I asked you if we could
Oh,
purchase something together, which you vetoed. But okay, first one is back in, God, I want to say it's almost 10 years ago. There was an apartment in Greenpoint that was on the market. It was brand new. Greenpoint was still not a cool hit place yet. It was still a little rundown. It was a 1-bedroom apartment for $350,000,
yeah.
but it was new construction. I was like, Gary, can we buy this together? Because I obviously didn't make you were smart and became an accountant and made good money. And I worked in the fashion industry and didn't get paid as much. So I was like, Gary, let's buy this. And you're like, you're crazy, girl. And then the second time was right in the beginning of the pandemic. There was this house in the Hamptons. It was a very humble house. It wasn't like one of those McMansions, and it was in Hampton Bays. And it was close to the train. It was close to the town. So those houses are a little bit smaller, but it still had a pool. It was like almost at least half an acre. And it was $850,000. So I'm like, Gary, we got to buy this.
Yeah,
If
I
we
mean, at
rented
the
this
end of the
out,
day,
this is
the
such a good
veto was
opportunity.
there because we needed to have more saved so that we can take part of these opportunities. So that's what we gotta do, like today, and what we need to work on is to save more, aside from the investing for retirement and college, because college will be the biggest
Mhm.
expense in our life for our kids. We just need to save so that we have the ability to take part in these other investments like these properties that you speak of. So, I think we just have some work to do to get there. Like I have a friend that, he already has properties and we just gotta try to keep up with him, I guess.
But yeah, so our financial planner told us that by the time our three kids are ready for school, college, it's going
Yeah,
to cost $1 million, and that's a big load
right.
for any parent to carry.
If you choose to
So
pay for your
yeah,
kid's
that's
college.
that's
And
a
I
lot.
understand the other side, you know, kids should be able to work through college and figure it out themselves and not have it handed to them. But yeah, it's a good debate in its
Hmm.
own right.
Mm. Yeah, and talking about kids again. So how are they want to know how we're teaching our kids about financial literacy, because it's not
Yeah.
enough to just to provide, like, let's say, paying their college or whatever. So what are we doing to teach them how to manage their
Yeah, I
money?
think financial literacy is really important because I think lately you see it in the news all the time. And Lou, he mentioned it in one of your podcasts. Right, yeah.
Oh, Luke
It's
Carloza?
important because we need to, it's interesting how like adults don't know much about money and finances. So I think it's important to teach our kids. I feel like our kids are still pretty young, but then we did sign up our oldest son for the Chase debit card that you can set up, and it's a way to set an allowance based on like the chores or whatever activities that they've done. And we haven't given it to him yet because I feel like maybe he's still not mature enough, but that's something that I'm looking into. And also like with silly things like the Pokemon cards that he has. To him, he just sees pictures on a card and he wants to share it with his friends, which is awesome, and he wants to trade. But there's certain cards that are quite valuable. So I had to teach him, I guess this was like a year or two ago, that this particular card is worth, let's say, $50 now, but maybe when in 10 years, 20 years, it could be worth even more. So we put it into like a hard plastic case so that he can hold it for safekeeping. But as we know, this kid took them all out of the hard plastic case and put them in a binder and tried to sneak it to camp. So I guess I need to do a better job teaching
Mm-hmm.
our kids about financial literacy, and they'll come as they get older and older. They're still really young at this
Mm-hmm.
point.
Yeah. And going back to the Chase debit card, I think the best part about that card is it
Yeah,
comes with an app that the kids can have on their tablet and the parents can track. So it's like a fun chart and game. And it like gamifies the whole process for the kids. And yes, about the Pokemon cards, man, it comes with maturity, and I think money is so intangible to them right now, because especially because we don't really use that much cash. The only cash they get is
yeah,
birthdays, Christmas, New Year's, when their grandparents give it to them. But then like it's still not tangible to them. And like I pay everything through credit card or apps or Venmo, so and I do a lot of my shopping online. So they don't really have that much experience even going into stores and
yeah.
seeing a cash transaction.
That,
But
yeah,
yeah, you're right. But I do try
yeah,
to, like, when we're at the pool or at the hockey rink, I do try to have him understand how much each thing costs if he wants it. And then if possible, when I have cash, I'll give it to him and then tell him to order it for himself. Give the cash
yeah,
register lady the money and make sure, just check to
yeah.
see if his change is correct. So that's as far as like I've gotten into
All right.
helping him
I
with
mean, we're at a
math and
point where
money.
most transactions
Hmm.
aren't done by cash. That's why I feel like this card will be great because I see a point where I'm able to give him an allowance if he follows, his chores and all that. And then he can decide what he wants to buy contingent on final approval by mom and dad. So for example, if he wants to buy uh, something on Fortnite or Roblox, he can make the decision to buy it on his own without having to constantly ask us, because he needs to rely less on us and use his own money at some point. And I think maybe, you know, he'll be ready soon for that type of responsibility.
Yeah. So another question. So who is the more cost conscious, thriftier spouse? So yours,
Yeah.
your CPA, right? And obviously that means you're like a natural CFO of the household, right? So who do you think is thriftier and more cost conscious, you or me?
I guess, I guess me.
I'm asking because
But I spend money
I'm
too.
asking I'm asking because you do, because you're the one that bought Theo, our
Yeah,
7-year-old,
yeah,
all
yeah,
those Pokemon cards. And you do spend, what else did you purchase? You did buy things like solar
yeah,
panels before the pandemic. You did buy, yeah, like new windows for the house. So can you tell me why, like, what was the reason behind each of those
yeah. So
specific
the solar
spendings?
panels, the heat pump, this new siding, those were all obviously big expenses, and you weren't really on board at first. But then, honestly, if you look at the numbers and the amount that you can save, maybe not initially, just like anything else, you need to make an investment up front. But down the road, there's a break-even point where your the money that you spent meets the savings that you've incurred based on, for example, the solar panels. So I think if that was the reason behind that. I mean, obviously, I want to be
Mm-hmm.
green and I want to the planet, save the planet, whatever. But that's not the main
Mm-hmm.
this reason why. It's about money. I wanted to save money in the long run, so that's why we did that.
Mm-hmm. So how you spend money is you spend money to save money. I think that's like a very true core to how your money
Yeah,
characteristics, I would say. I like to spend money to make money, which goes back to why I like to invest in real estate and stuff like that. But no, I didn't disagree on the actual purchases and reason. I agreed with it. I just thought there were
yeah.
better ways to spend. But you're right. I don't regret it, especially with the gas
No,
prices
I
right
think
now.
it
You're
was a
the smart
good
one.
call. And hey, I don't want your listeners to think I'm like this frugal CPA dude that doesn't like to enjoy life. Like I love to buy my wife things. Whatever she wants, she gets. And
Yep.
yeah, and the Pokemon cards and like whatever. For the kids, I want them to be happy because you know that life is about happiness, and if you earn it, then they could get the cards or whatever.
Yeah, you spend a lot of money on the kids, I would say, more than I do. I'm very strict about buying them stuff because I feel like they just waste it and toss it. But I was making fun of you on about your purchases, like your Black Friday purchases, getting them all these toys that they don't need. Um, but you said it was on sale, but then I was still like, oh my gosh, it's still such a waste of money. But you were saying to me, well, it's because I could play with them together. Like we could play together with them, like with the Legos and with the toys. And I was like, that's so true. Like
Yeah,
that,
there's
I didn't think about
like
that
as these
because
kids
that's
get
not
older,
why
they're spending
I
so
would
much
buy the
time on the
toys.
iPad, and if I can buy them some cool like what is it, Iron Man Legos and like Beauty and the Beast set of Legos where they can play and build and spend even like a few hours on, then that's great for me and for them. And they've been playing for it for more than just they're still playing with it. So I think it's fine. I think it's good.
Yeah, I agree. Um, so going back to parenting, right? Again, what do you think? Was there ever a time as a dad where you just felt like a complete failure? Like, I'll talk about one time when I was a mom. I think after Ellie, our second, was born, right now they're 7 and 4. But when Ellie was just
Yeah.
born, Theo was like before that, it was always just me. And like having to deal with he never had emotional tantrums ever. He's such a good kid, very active and wild, but he never caused me problems. Like he never cried ever, ever, ever. Even when he was in pain, he never cried. He was just so happy. But once Ellie was born and he saw that this baby was crying all the time and getting whatever she wanted, he was just regressed and would cry and would sometimes have accidents, like, bathroom accidents. And I think that's when I didn't know how to handle it or know what to do. And I would just scream at both of them. I think that I felt like a failure. I knew this was not the right answer and I didn't know how to fix it. But what about you? What was your like rock bottom moment
I
with
don't
the
know.
kids?
I guess same thing when they're just being kids and I yell, um, and they start crying, that just really hurts. And then,
Mm-hmm.
kids are so crazy, like they get over it so quickly too. And it just hurts us more as parents. And
Mm-hmm.
then like the next time around it'll happen again and again. But I think it's important just to try to be patient, at least for me, and understand why they're acting out. Like lately it's because it's summer and they're really tired from camp, and then it's summer, so I'm a little more lenient, let them stay up a little bit later, but that's when they get a little more whiny. So I think it's about being patient and
Mm-hmm.
understanding, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you get guilt? Like
Yeah,
mom guilt, I feel like is a phrase I guess thrown out a lot, whether you're a working mom or stay at home mom. Mom guilt always comes up.
I
Is there dad
guess I
guilt?
feel
Is that a
guilty at
thing?
times when, for example, if I have like I'm going out with friends for like dinner or whatever, and I'm leaving the kids alone, home alone with you, I definitely feel guilt. And as soon as I leave the door, I'm like thinking, oh, should I just stay home and hang out with the kids instead? So I feel guilt about that.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't think you should though. I feel like, especially you, I feel like you're more social than me. We call you gregarious Gary. But I feel
Everyone
like you need that
does.
time
Yeah.
for yourself though, like just time to like not work. Yeah, it's fine.
Oh boy.
You did leave me during every single pregnancy for bachelor parties. When I was pregnant with Theo, the first one, I think you went to 3 bachelor parties. When I was pregnant with Ellie, so I had Ellie and then Theo. I think you went to 2. And then when I was pregnant with Esme, and I had the other two, you went
Yeah.
places. I mean, it's okay. It's just like it's just a rough weekend. But like if you need that and makes you a better husband
Yeah,
and father, I think,
it's not that I
so
need
be it.
it, but it's
Enjoy.
not that it makes me a better husband or father, but I have another hat where I'm a friend too, and I want to support my friends and be there for my friends also. So
Mm,
it's just it's just a
that's
balancing
true.
act and being able to balance all these other responsibilities.
Mm, yeah, I agree. So I have a question. This is kind of finance and kid related. So when you see kids spending like eighty
Oh,
dollars on skins on Fortnite, right? What do you think? How does that for you translate to like the future of NFT and stuff like that? Do you see like a correlation or like, because that's what I think about when I see that. I'm like, I know this sounds like
yeah.
so far fetched, like avatars and a metaverse, but when I see them so immersed in that, I'm like, oh gosh, I could see a future. Maybe not an immediate future, and it may not be until they have kids. I don't know, but like, I, I don't know.
Yeah.
From afar, I see
Yeah, same
something
thing. And
happening.
I'd say the
What do you
future is
think?
already here because the kids are already interacting with their friends not in person all the time, but they have just as much fun playing these games together online and making all these purchases, like
Mm.
like costumes
Mm-hmm.
or new games or whatever, and it makes a lot of money, and these kids are having fun. And even I play with Theo on Fortnite, and I bought a marshmallow skin, and it was one of the best, the best way I've spent my money recently because that skin gives me a lot of joy when I play. So I think the future's here. I mean, I guess, and you see all these companies like
Oh my God.
jumping in, so yeah, it'll be a new way of entertainment, and I'd say that it's already here, and it'll get even bigger.
Wow, that's so interesting. It was great to know your input because I know you're really into like tech and the fintech world. Um, but thanks for that. Okay, one last question. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but so what do you think about
Oh,
cryptocurrency?
I think cryptocurrency is it's great. I mean, it's a way for people to get exposure to a different asset class. I don't think people should go all in, but it's a good way to expose yourself to a new and booming industry. Um, yeah, and like we allocate some of our monies to some of the big cryptos like Bitcoin and Ethereum and some of the other smaller altcoins. Not a whole lot, but it's still risky. But I think it's definitely a big part of today, and it'll be a bigger part in the future because you see all these institutions that are jumping in. Like today, I'm not sure if you saw BlackRock announced a partnership with Coinbase so that their institutional clients can get access to Bitcoin and other cryptos. And I think it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. And um, well, it'll be interesting to see how everything unfolds.
Mhm. Yeah. Even I was speaking to a mortgage broker, one of the top mortgage brokers in the country, and she works for Wells Fargo, and she said that she has clients already that's trying to
Yeah,
pay
yeah,
in Bitcoin. So that it's very new for everyone. That is definitely a fact. Um, but yeah, Gary, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your expert advice. Thank you for
yeah,
talking to me from the office. But can you come home soon
yeah.
because I've
I'll
got things
stay
to do
here for a
too.
little while. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay.
Enjoy, enjoy. It'll be my turn next weekend or something. I'm just
All right,
kidding.
bye.
All right, thanks.